Flagship is revolutionizing Web3, investing by leveraging AI-driven agents to identify and evaluate the most promising crypto projects. By combining artificial intelligence with deep industry insights, Flagship streamlines research, helping investors navigate the fast-moving blockchain space with confidence. Their AI agents analyze trends, assess risks, and provide data-backed recommendations, bridging the gap between traditional finance and decentralized investments. In this interview, we'll explore how Flagship's technology is shaping the future of crypto investing and what sets them apart in the evolving Web3 landscape.
We are joined today by Jorn, who is the CEO and founder of Flagship. Now, Flagship is a cool company that took blockchain and now AI and has combined them. So it's a very, very exciting project. Jorn, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much, Nassim. Happy to be here.
All right, so why don't we start off with just the basic background about you and how you got into the crypto space so people have an idea of what sort of formulated your mindset and your involvement in the Web3 space.
Yeah, for sure. So I graduated from uni in 2016. And I think about a month or two after I graduated, my roommate walked in and my roommate was like, you got to buy this cryptocurrency. It was an initiative to put in the Netherlands before the euro came. We had the guilder. And it was an initiative to bring the guilder back, but then in a crypto format. I didn't know anything about blockchain or crypto, but my friend told me buy this coin, and all of a sudden it went up 20x in the span of a couple of weeks. So that definitely piqued my interest. That got me pretty much hooked in, and from there on, I started
Which crypto was it?
the NLG. I think it died a long time ago, but it was yeah.
Okay, cool. See,
The ticker with the NLG. Yeah, I got out.
okay, cool.
Then I started traveling the world. My plan was always to travel the world after university, and I just couldn't stop being interested in, okay, how did I actually make this money? How does this work? What does this all look like? So I kept digging in more and more, and at some point, I think it was March 2017, I decided to write a book about it. This book was two-part. Like it was a sort of a summary of my findings and my research, but it was also to convince my dad to give me a loan because I was broke because I was traveling straight out of uni, and my dad was no, absolutely not. I'm gonna loan you money if you're traveling the world. So I was like, okay, I'll write a book and to convince him. Um, I did convince him, and I also published a book on Amazon. It was called Crypto and Blockchain for Dummies. From there on, the book got picked up by a early stage crypto media company. They were, okay, we're looking for crypto journalists and researchers. How would you like to join us? So it was called.
Can I ask quick? So so you got in investing in the project, and then you wrote the book. The book, was it more related to the actual sort of investing in crypto, or was it more about the actual technology of blockchain?
It was a combination of both. It was mostly focused on, okay, what are the fundamentals? So what are the fundamentals of blockchain? What are the fundamentals of Bitcoin? And how should you approach this? So of course, crypto is always, it's always been very money and investing focused, as they like to say. You come for the money, stay for the technology and the ideology. And that's sort of what happened to me as well. So over time, I just started to get more and more interested in the technology, but it was a combination. It was mostly a guide for people that were like me. Okay, how can I actually invest in this space? What is the vision? What is the potential? And what is the underlying technology? But yeah, from there on, book got picked up. I became a crypto researcher and journalist. I was very early, so I ranked number one on Google with a lot of terms. I got especially interested in token economics. So from there on, I decided to specialize myself in token economics. Landed quite a few consulting gigs for several Web3 projects. In 2021 and in 2021, during the last bull market, I got so many requests from friends, family, but also random people on LinkedIn. Okay, which coins do I buy? How do I buy it? Can I send you some money to invest? I wasn't comfortable with any of that, but I did understand there was a huge need for people that aren't per se investors, aren't per se gonna have the time or the knowledge or the experience to really successfully invest in this space and understand the whole vision of and the scope of this industry. So that's when I decided to develop Flagship. the idea has always been, okay, how can we bring this technology? Because I firmly believe we're going to reach mass adoption, billions of users, and trillions in value locked in this ecosystem and this economy over the next decade. How can I easily and responsibly give people that are interested but don't have the time or knowledge to keep up exposure to this industry? So with that philosophy, we started Flagship. The ideation was in 2021. The first white paper got published in 2022. And from there, we raised capital via our first token sale. And from there on, it just started rolling and rolling. So since then, we've been building a lot of pivots, a lot of changes, a lot of hard times and good times, and a lot of suffering. But yeah, we're still here, and actually, it's going better than ever now.
That's great. So what exactly is the offering of Flagship? What sort of problem are you guys trying to solve? Because from what you're saying, you're a big believer. So I'm gonna be honest about my stance in the whole crypto space. I'm a big believer in the technology, right? Speculation on token prices is something I'm not a fan of, because even like if you look at the whole meme coin culture, people say it's a culture, right? The culture means nothing when the meme coin tanks. It's cool when people are like, oh, I'm 10x, and then it's all cute and fun, right? But then like inherently, I think having an underlying value to a project, to like solving some real life need or problem is critical. So what are the foundations of Flagship in that regard?
So I'm fully with you. I think their culture is indeed a marketing stunt, and it works well until indeed the prices go down, and all of a sudden your cult is just a community of two people chatting per day. But I think in general, we live in a capitalist society, right? So speculation and investing is part of any new technology. You see it with AI as well. Like if you see it, the pace and the amounts going around in the AI startup and the public sector, it's enormous. That's just kind of how our system works and what is needed to innovate and bring the whole industry and technology forward. But what the philosophy is exactly to protect people from the basically from the bullshit of the industry, right? So I have always had the position, like I'm a firm believer in the technology, but I think the technology is fundamentally intertwined with finance and economics. So speculation and investing will always be a part of the technology, especially because it
Mm.
only works when you tokenize it, right? Like that's the whole innovation. Bitcoin wouldn't work without a token. It needs to have a token to incentivize the network participants. So what we want to do is we want users, okay, 90% to 99% of this industry is, it kind of depends on how you look at it, right? Because you see these stats coming that there's 12 million, 17 million, 20 million tokens. I don't really count pump duck fund tokens as genuine tokens, right? Like, so I think it's smaller than that, but still the majority of the tokens aren't really useful or valuable, but there are valuable assets. Like there are valuable innovations, right? Like Bitcoin is 100% a valuable asset. The market has proven that over and over again. You see it with global adoption. Stablecoins, another product that found product market fit. It's growing explosively, especially over the past 12 months. Then if you have stablecoins, you're going to have DeFi because you need to use those stablecoins. A lot of people don't have access to banking services, right? Like they can't have a crypto collateralized loan. It's hard to get credit. It's hard to take part in global e-commerce. So, or even just be part of the global digital workforce. And now with a smartphone and a MetaMask wallet or whatever wallet you prefer, you can partake all of a sudden in the global economy and start working for crypto projects and other projects. So there is a lot of value and a lot of merit in this industry. And what we're trying to do is, okay, we create portfolios. So we create baskets of assets that we have analyzed on both a fundamental and technical level, and we give users very easy app. With a few clicks, they can get invested into one of these portfolios. And these portfolios are just baskets focusing on a specific trend or sector or strategy in the industry. So, for example, we can have a portfolio for DeFi. We can have a portfolio for the crossover between AI and crypto. We can have a portfolio for layer one blockchains, meme coins, You'd be surprised how much demand there is for meme coins. I've always wanted to stay away, but meme coins are actually the most demanded
Yeah,
portfolios.
I
Egypt,
mean that's the full narrative of this bull cycle is meme coins,
yeah, yeah,
100%.
it's Bitcoin and meme coins and the crossover of AI and blockchain and crypto, of course. But that's always been okay. So if you create a portfolio, because crypto is extremely risky and extremely volatile. No matter how much a protocol or a token actually gets adopted, it's still very speculative and very volatile. If you create a basket, so a portfolio of assets, you reduce the volatility and you reduce the risk. You also cap the upside a little bit, but the industry is still very early. So capping the upside definitely outweighs the mitigation of risk you get to do the diversification. So that's the portfolios. When we initially set out, we always set out with the concept of okay, we want people, like just the traditional sense, right? We want analysts and we want portfolio managers. It's a very cumbersome model on the regulatory front, but also with coordination. You have to talk to all these people. People just have different priorities and shifting priorities, and they get sick and everything. So there was already quite some friction in that model. And when ChatGPT came out, we started experimenting with okay, how can we create an AI analyst that just we outsource all our fundamental analysis to our own AI analyst assistant. We've been building that for 2 years. Ran into a lot of issues with hallucinations. It just didn't adhere to the rules we set up. Um, it didn't understand the data we put in, and then in the latter half of 2024, Eliza OS came out, some other open source models came out, and we finally dared to pull the trigger. Okay, so we can actually replace our envisioned human workforce with artificial intelligence, and then especially with agents. So that's what we're building now. We actually released our first agents 2 days ago. So what we're doing now is we have 4 agents that can be an infinite number, and these 4 agents they specialize in a specific sector. So we have an agent for meme coins, we have an agent for the crossover of artificial intelligence, and crypto. We have an agent that we call him Agent Boomer. He's focused more on the blue chips and the lower risk plays in the industry, and Agent DeFi that focus specifically on the DeFi sector. These are testing agents, and from there on, we're now training them. So we're adding more data feeds, we're adding more information. We also have a self optimization model that the agents can learn from the choices they've made and optimize based on that. And that from here on, it's just going to be scaling. So making the agents better. It runs on a crypto brain. It's a proprietary artificial intelligence system that just expands and optimizes itself. We plug in more data feeds. We plug in different large language models or LLMs. So the crypto brain keeps expanding. All the agents per subsector, they manage the portfolio. They learn. All these learnings get shared with the crypto brain. So all the agents learn from any mistakes that any of the agents make.
So to highlight it, so Flagship started with a team of analysts. I believe you call them captains that would sort of manage a portfolio, sort of like um, a traditional financial institution where they have their analysts. They look at different projects or different companies. They create baskets of what you can invest in, your higher risk, your lower risk, whatever, like S&P 500, that kind of vibe. Now, you had that initially with human agents. Now, with the advent of AI, you've incorporated AI models into analyzing whichever sector, so whether that be DeFi or even meme coins or your traditional blue chip projects, and create an investment strategy based on that information input. And you've tested that, I presume, to see what the performance is relative to your human analysts. Is that correct?
Yeah, the agents are relatively new. So we're currently in beta, and the agents are not managing any capital at all. So currently in our mini app, we're testing the agents. So currently each of the 4 agents, they pick one asset per day, and they work on a number of data sets, but the most important one is a proprietary artificial intelligence that can listen to 17,000 public crypto Telegram channels, and it can gauge sentiment from there. It can gauge attention. It can gauge relative attention, what is being talked about. So they mainly base their decisions of the daily pick on that. We learn from that process. So that's going to be running for about 4 to 6 weeks. Then we switch to portfolios. So these agents are going to be managing a basket of assets instead of one. Then we learn again, this is all in beta. They're not going to be managing money. And once we establish, okay, the results are sufficient, they benchmark well against the dollar, against Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they perform well, then we roll it out entirely. But it's cutting edge technology. It's new. Our agents, it's new. So we have to test them first before we let them out in the wild.
Yeah, I think the due diligence there by making sure that you've analyzed your AI models and reviewed their performance is critical. Because otherwise, I think a thing about the crypto space, and I like this about the crypto space, is that if you do someone dirty, essentially, like if you cheat someone, the trust is lost and you won't get that trust back. So it is very important to do your due diligence before releasing new upgrades. The the interesting thing there on the AI models is you need to decide what are relevant input data features for different projects, right? So let's say we look at the meme coins. Meme coins, you would sort of prioritize your AI agents learning from, I presume, Telegram groups of KOLs, right? Because KOLs pump meme coins. And then for your more traditional TradFi, there would be other sort of sectors that you would train your AI model on, because maybe the Telegram KOLs are not really pushing actual, you know, DeFi projects. Sorry, not TradFi, DeFi.
Yeah,
So
gotta we I gotta interfere there a little bit. We're not gonna follow KOLs because KOLs pump their own bags. So we're definitely not gonna follow the KOLs. We're looking at attention and sentiment. So we're looking at relative attention and whether the relative attention is growing and whether the relative sentiment is growing compared to a whole basket. So for example, if you look at meme coins, we wouldn't follow these KOLs and these public crypto Telegram channels. That they're not per se KOL channels. They're all kind. They're 17,000, right? So what we're looking at is that there is a set of parameters, right? So there has to be a relative time on market. The contract has to be validated. The market cap at this stage has to be above 10 million. So it's all relative, and it's about the attention that an aggregate, these 70,000 crypto Telegram channels are paying attention to specific assets.
okay, I like that you're not following KOLs. You are looking for a little bit deeper foundation.
We're not gonna have our users become exit liquidity.
Yeah, to be honest, so on our YouTube channel, we mostly do education on blockchain. Less so on we've done a few like project promotions, but we've actually said no to those now. We host our own crypto events and stuff. And a few times people say, "Oh, you're a KOL." And that stigma of someone saying you're a KOL, I'm like, no, no, don't call me that. Yeah, I think KOLs have a bit of a bad rep now, but fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, it's double, right? Like on the one end, they're the perfect marketing avenue because they've managed to capture attention, and attention is everything on the internet, right? So it makes sense, but there has to be a high degree of integrity, and often with KOLs, there's misaligned incentives. So that's sort of
Mm.
that's sort of the issue is the misaligned incentives is okay. I have this attention. Do I want to use it like you do for educational purposes and help people, or do I want to do it to make a quick buck? And unfortunately, the way the incentive structure of this market is set up, a lot of KOLs decide to go for the latter. But I do have to say there are a lot of very decent, high quality KOLs and educators. But it's the ones that stick out are the ones that do the worst things, right?
For sure. I'm quite a big fan of have you ever watched CoffeeZilla's channel?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm quite a big fan of him. um
He's good.
so
He seems to be objective. Yeah.
yeah, I like that. So now that obviously the crypto space is going from a more degen environment to a more regulated environment. We're getting Trump now saying he wants to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He's also very pro crypto. So the head of the US is saying pro crypto. So the whole world is now undeniably moving in this direction, meaning we're going to get a lot more TradFi coming into the space. So inherently, it's going to become more regulated over the next 5-10 years in very specific ways. How is Flagship navigating the regulatory environment, and how do you see the advancement happening in the next few years, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, so this is something we monitor very closely. As we have this talk, our white paper is actually being reviewed by our legal team because we want our token to be fully compliant under MiCA and our protocol as well, and also looking at VARA and waiting for the US to give clear guidance because right now we just have to geo block any and all US participants and partnerships and avenues
Big market
because we
there.
just it's the biggest market in the world, but the risk is like right now you would see the American SEC is dropping all their lawsuits, so it's becoming a little bit more. It's becoming a little bit more rational, but we very closely monitor it, right? Like as Flagship, we do definitely want to enter the U.S. market, but it has to be in a fully compliant way. And that's in general. We're startup, right? We're startup, highly risky. We're in crypto, highly risky. We're not going to take any regulatory risk as well. So it slows down the process, but yeah, it's especially with Mika as a very clear framework in Europe. It's very clear what the rules are. I'm very grateful for it. I also think that a lot of these regulations, tying into your question, are actually very necessary, right? We don't want FTX to happen again. We don't want Celsius to happen again. So I think in a way, and MiCA under European regulations is in a sense quite liberal. Initially, we were a bit worried that it would be too strict, but it is a workable system or regulatory framework, and we're expecting the same coming out of the US. So the industry will get regulated, and as long as it's for consumer protection, I'm all for it because the industry just has a very bad reputation. So it generates trust, right? Like if you look at real world assets, if you don't want stable coins to be like we had with Tether for years, that you actually have to question yourself, is Tether actually one-on-one backed with real dollars in a bank account? You don't want to have those questions. You don't want FTX to happen again. You don't want
And
a real world
also,
asset.
yeah, and also if you have the doubt there, you'll never get institutional involvement. If like
No,
it's okay for you and I to have our few like USDT and question it and like be a little bit stressed, but the institutional investors, the institutions will not come on if the regulation is not there, irrespective of the upside. Yeah.
absolutely, and I think you're spot on, and I think these regulatory developments, what's going to happen is they are going to bring in a wave of capital that we cannot quite comprehend, in my opinion, what's coming. If you look at the projections of BlackRock, I think they're talking about $10 trillion of tokenized assets. That's $10 trillion in TVL getting added to DeFi by 2030. That's insane, right? And then you can use these real world assets on Aave or another protocol like Aave, and you can use them as collateral. And that's going to usher in liquidity for the industry as a whole, for quality assets and projects. So it cannot be understated how important these regulations are and how big the flows of capital that these institutions can potentially bring in, how massive of an adoption that's going to be and boost for this industry. And it's also for regular users, right? Like you see the shift. A lot of people in say mainstream, they're starting to take crypto seriously. Like Bitcoin is just regarded as a commodity instead of some speculative magic internet money that's only used for money laundering. Like people finally get it. And I think people need that trust. People need to understand, okay, this is actually an innovation. This is not some weird speculative casino like scammy industry. Because we did have a lot of examples of that, but underneath there's such cool protocols and experimentation and technology being built.
Yeah, I think that's the correct way to look at it. And also what I appreciate about the way that Flagship is going about being on the regulatory side, being compliant, even now, like you cut out the US market for the short term so that long-term trust is built, and actually making sure that Flagship is a company that's there for the next 5 or 10 years. I think the like something that was been unfortunate from my point of view is the fact that a lot of human beings would create a project just to drain liquidity and then exit. It's a very not community way of living. And I always think that humans at the end of the day are community animals, right? Like we are social beings. So to do that is not a pleasant thing. So it's nice to hear that your company is going the route of being properly on the regulation side so that you can be there long term and provide value for your users and not abuse the trust that they've implanted in you.
Yeah, 100%. Like when we started this company, I can be quite honest. We didn't really like we've been in the industry quite long. Me and my co-founder, and also in the team. Like our CTO started mining Ethereum in 2013, right? For us, it's always been a 10-year project. When we started, it's like, okay, we're gonna do this for 10 years. We're gonna wait until crypto reaches the same levels of adoption on the internet, and that's our North Star. Like in terms of timeline, that's where we want to be, and that's where we're heading towards. And I'm very allergic to the short-termism of the industry. I think it is also a great opportunity because the short term, like they create massive dips because people don't really understand what they're buying. So they're panic selling, and then you get very good entries, whether it's Bitcoin after the FTX collapse, whether it's what's currently happening. Like you create great opportunities because people don't understand it quite yet. But I think Naval, one of the Silicon Valley tech philosophers, said it best. Crypto is a marathon disguised as a sprint, and Bitcoin is sound money disguised as a get rich quick scheme. It looks, because of the volatility, it all looks like it's a sprint and it's get rich quick. Well, underneath it, the undercurrent is just a technology that's gradually finding its way into mainstream.
Yeah. I think I don't know if there's a podcast with Michael Saylor on impact theory, Tumble Use channel. I don't know if you ever follow that channel.
Yeah, I know Tumble.
It's like
I
a
got yeah, I know him. I
it's
have to say, I got a little bit tired of Michael Saylor, so I stopped following him.
re- there's a 2.5 hour podcast that he has with Tumble. Tumble is a great interviewer. Objectively, I must say, like really, really good questioning and bringing clarity to his questions. And yeah, I get that you're tired of Michael Saylor, but he does have a very cool way of describing concepts using real life analogies so that people can visualize the concept. So for anyone who's watching this interview, I'd highly recommend giving that a listen. Tumble Use Impact Theory with Michael Saylor. Great podcast. And in that, he also sort of explains the underlying value of Bitcoin as the marathon view, not the sprint view. And that's very powerful for the long term. In terms of Flagship now, who's your ideal target audience?
The ideal target audience is I it's between 20 and 35, maybe 40. It's people that have some money to spend, are generally generally have a good income or a good job, understand that the future of money is digital, understand that this is actually a investable industry and market, but don't have the time or knowledge to keep up. And that pertains to a lot of my personal friends and my co-founders' personal friends. That's where the whole concept came from. We have a lot of people in our network, whether it's people that are carpenters or lawyers or doctors, like all of them sort of like they see it in the news again, and then they have this one neighbor or this one uncle that buying crypto, but they're afraid to dip their toes into it because the technology is complex, the market is overwhelming, and investing in general is a professional skill. So that's really our beachhead target group, is those people that have some money to spend, can afford to take a little bit more risk in their portfolio, but don't have the time or the knowledge to keep up with crypto.
I completely agree with that. So obviously, everyone, like in my family, we are the crypto people. So whoever wants to invest comes to us, right? And there is that thing that yes, crypto is there and it's new and it's a technology that I think you should invest in. Like even Bitcoin, it's a whole new asset class, right? And I do think you should have some exposure to it because it's great in the long term. But we don't need everyone to become traders. Like even in the traditional finance world, people invest through banks in the stock market, but they themselves are not necessarily finding out what's going on in all the companies. You pay your 1% management fee, the company handles it because they're knowledgeable and stuff, and you live on contributing to society in your own way. We don't need everyone to be in the crypto space. We don't need everyone to be in the Web3 space. Carpenters can be carpenters, doctors can be doctors. The extra asset that they have, they can most definitely invest in the Web3 space, but you don't have to now go and become a professional about blockchain. It is developing fine without you. You focus on being a doctor, you focus on being a carpenter. Let like offload that workload to the professionals, and I quite like that.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly our philosophy, right? Like people should also not do that. It's same with stock picking. Like if you go to the traditional market, if you want to be a stock picker, you got to invest 40 to 60 hours a week for a couple of years until you finally get it. People don't have the time, and we shouldn't. We want doctors, right? We want we want carpenters. We really don't want everybody to get into the financial sector. But it's exactly right, and it's the same with the portfolios that we're building. It's kind of analogous to if you look at green energy. You might really be in favor of green energy, but you're not going to be able to if you're not a professional investor. You're not going to be able to discern, okay, what are the best stocks to express my vision that green energy is going to be the future. Like you want professionals to do that for you.
100%. Is there before we end off, do you maybe just want to give a simple breakdown of how someone can, like, let's say I've got a lot of doctor friends. How do they get onboarded? Let's say they decide, okay, cool, I like Flagship, I like what they stand for. What do they do now?
So currently, as a way to bootstrap our early user base, we have launched a mini app on Telegram, the messaging platform. So all users have to do is, if they have Telegram, click one link and you're in. If they don't have Telegram, download Telegram, which is a very quick onboarding process, and click the link and you're in the mini app. Right now we're still in the pre, like we don't have a token live yet. We're in the pre-token stage, and what we're doing right now is a process called agent mining. So if you open our mini app, you see the 4 agents there, you see our interface, you see how slick and smooth and beautiful everything looks. And all you have to do right now is just select one of the agents, and if you pick the best performing agent, you get rewarded some of our FYI tokens. That's going to be the process over the next couple of months. We're just going to be training these agents. First, it's single asset per day, then it's multiple assets in the portfolio. And after that, the mini app evolves. Like we're also going to take it over time out of Telegram, and it's just going to be a standalone app that we can plug into the iOS app store, the Android app store, and a web native application or native web app. So, and then users, whatever platform, whatever device they're on, they just open the Flagship app. They look at the portfolio that they like. They send their stable coins to the portfolio that they like, and that's it. They're invested in a portfolio of their favorite subsectors or their favorite risk profiles.
Do they send when you say they send the stable coin, so they already have to have a Web3 wallet, so like a MetaMask, and send it to the address of Flagship?
It depends. We're all gonna. It's not. It's a smart contract, so everything is gonna be non-custodial and fully automated and smart contract based. So we cannot actually touch the asset of the users. So we are looking, and we want to abstract all the complexities away. So it can be, you can connect to the Flagship app with your Web3 native wallet, but we're also looking into integrating tooling that you can just use it with your Gmail login or your Facebook login or your Telegram ID as a login. And we abstract the complexities away. So you will get your own wallet and you will be able to control it. But instead of having to store the private key, you can link it to your Google account or your Facebook account.
Yeah, my viewpoint on this. So I'm about to release a video on Ripple, right? Ripple XRP, and something I realized when I made the video is this whole thing of decentralization. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, decentralization, great, 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 fantastic." people don't want that. Like, to be honest, there's the subset that want to know they own their assets for sure, and it's good. But in general, people want to know that if they lose a password, there is a central entity that can sort of give them their information back, and that central entity is regulated, right? So like with you linking it to a Gmail, you would somehow like, you're abstracting away this thing of if you lose this password, you're out. It's linked to your Gmail. And I'm just saying it from my doctor friend's point of view. They have a lot of money, they have spare money. Saying that you need to keep this and never lose it is a sufficient reason for them not to invest. So I think abstracting it away, which does include a little bit of centralization, but if you add regulation and oversight to that slight centralization and you use the blockchain technology for what it is, but allow the user interface to be slightly centralized for the sake of convenience and abstraction, I think that's fine. I'm kind of a big promoter of that because I know my doctor friends and they will lose their private keys for sure. And they won't redo it if they have to have a private key. Just the fact.
100%. We've experienced the same. So we already launched our in beta. We already launched 5 portfolios on the Polygon blockchain. It was all non-custodial, fully smart contract based, and everybody needed to use it with their own wallet. And the number of steps that it took, the range of complexity, and indeed, a lot of people lost their access to their wallet. So yeah, that's just money lost forever, and we really do not want to expose our users to that. So 100% agree. And we're seeing very like the beauty of this industry is we don't have to build everything ourselves, right? So a lot of the third-party tooling, open source tooling, we can integrate, and you see a clear trend in the industry right now about abstracting away all the complexities, and the technology is finally getting ready. So we're going to abstract away all these blockchains, like in maybe this year, but in a couple of years for sure. People do not know which blockchain they use. People do not know what a private key is. Same as the dial-in. You remember the early days of the internet, maybe that you had to dial in.
Yeah.
That's where we are now, and it's gonna go away.
And an important fact is 90% of the people don't want to know what blockchain they're on. Like there is the people that care, but to be honest, the people in the traditional world, they want to use the technology without using the technology. And I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think everyone has to go become a Web3 native. Focus on other stuff, make the world a better place, fix lives, whatever. We will handle everything on the underside.
Good. Yes.
Is anything else you wanna say before we end this?
Yeah, I'd really like to invite just all your listeners. Just check out our mini app right now, and become part of the community, because we really want as many people in there as possible. We listen to all our community feedback. We train the agents with the community feedback, but also we improve the app. And you're early. You can get rewarded if you actively participate in the community or actively use the app. So right now is kind of the ideal time to get started. So yeah, I'd like to invite everybody over to our Telegram chat. Follow us on Twitter. On Twitter, you can also find the link to our Telegram mini app. The onboarding process is very easy. So that's everybody's very welcome to join us.
Cool. I will add links to everything in the description. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jorn.
Thank you.